Many years ago, I did a video on the star stitch baby jacket pattern. Back then, I didn't have a video that I could do editing with, so I did an abbreviated version of how to make the jacket. I've had several ladies ask if I had a more elaborate one or one that gives more directions and information. So I'm going to redo the video. I'm not sure how long it's going to take. To make one of these jackets, it takes me 14 to 20 hours depending on the size. So it's going to be 2 or 3 days before you see the full video completed. But I can go ahead and get it started and give you an idea of what we need to do. So the pattern itself is called the Star Stitch Baby Jacket from Newborn to 1 Year. And the pattern itself comes with a jacket in all 4 sizes. I had in the first, no, all 4 sizes, booties and mittens only in 3 to 6 and 0 to 3 year size, because once they get past 6 months, they don't really wear the booties much anymore. But this pattern is available on my website, stitchniche.com, spelled N-I-C-H-E, not N-I-T-C-H, although I did take over that domain name, so if you do N-I-T-C-H, you will still find me. And it's also on Ravelry.com. Also, you would need obviously a pair of scissors, a tapestry needle, and a size 6 circular needle, 24-inch. Now, when I make mine, I don't use stitch holders to hold this part, but I'm going to show you both ways because some ladies I know like stitch holders and some ladies don't. And why I call it star stitch is if you look at the jacket, I mean the hats, you can see they look like little stars the way you actually do it. It's 4 rows of knit. The only difference in 2 of the rows is where you put your yarn, whether to the front of the work or the back of the work, and that's what causes this. So I'm going to go ahead and probably make both the jacket and the hat to complete the video. Also, it can be done with a yarn called Baby Blossom, which is really neat because it automatically does this striping. Now, the blue one has blue flowers in it, but if you get one of the other colors like the pink, the yellow, the lavender, the flowers are green and pink. So you just have to see whether you like those particular yarns. Both of the yarns are available on my website, also the Dream Baby, as well as the Baby Blossom. Okay, I'll go ahead and get started. I'm just going to make the smallest version. And if you look at here, the top of this page, it shows the 4 rows of doing the star stitch. Now, when you do the neckline, you're not following the star stitch as it shows in this pattern because you want to set this up a little bit different. Also, when you make this, you're going to need 4 little stitch holders or stitch markers, because when you do the raglan sleeve, which is right here, you need to mark all 4 locations on the sleeve to make it easier, because counting can be a bear, especially when you get up over 150 to 200 stitches. Why I like making the raglan sweater the most is because it's all done in one piece. You start at the neck and you do this part here. Then when you get ready to do the next part, you separate the part. So you do here to this point and you add a stitch marker. Then you knit to this point, add a stitch marker, and you do the same here and here. And as you go back and forth, you do your increasings at the 4 stitch markers. But when we get to that, I'll show you that. But I'll go ahead and get it started in my intro video. But then you won't see another video until I get it all completed. That was one of the suggestions. One individual had said it was too confusing with me using different colored parts and pieces. So I'm just going to do one sweater and I'm going to take it from start to end. That's it. Okay, to start with, I do the circular needles, cast on 50 stitches, and I knit the first 2 rows. Real straightforward. I've already wound my yarn up. Where's my needles? You put the yarn on the floor. Seems to work better for me on the floor. I like to do the cable short tail cast on. It's just my personal preference. You can do whichever cast on you like. I don't think there's enough stitches there. Need at least a couple of feet, I think. I'd rather cut out 6 inches off of a tail than have to cast on again. The reason I'm doing blue is because I've already got a pink and white one at my shop, so I just want to do a blue one, so this way I have one of each shade. Okay, so to do a long tail cast on, you you put your finger and your thumb in between and pull it up like a slingshot. Then you go under your thumb, over your finger, and then move the thumb one over the needle and then pull it tight. Not super tight, you want to make it still fairly loose. So you go under the thumb, over the finger, take the thumb over the needle, release and pull it tight. So it's under the thumb, over the finger, thumb over needle, pull it. And you just keep doing this until you get all 50 stitches. I will do the first, let's see, I'll see how far I can get on this. I want to show you all the parts, and as things change, I like to show you how each part changes. I'm going to show you the 2 ways of holding your stitches. I prefer leaving all my stitches on my circular needle after I start breaking it apart into the sleeves and the body. Some ladies prefer to put them on stitch holders, and I'll show those 2 different ways. I don't think I gave myself enough. As you can see, that's definitely not enough for 50. So I'm going to take it off and pull it. Give myself some more yarn. And we'll start all over again. I don't knit to be exactly perfect with the exact amount of yarn. I knit for the enjoyment, and if I have a little left over on a tail, I can weave part of it in and then clip off the rest of it. But I try to make sure I definitely have enough. I'd rather have too much than not enough. And you see, this is really a fast way of knitting. Also, when you do this, it's actually knitting your first row on as you go. Although, personally, I never count it as my first row. Some ladies do. It's entirely up to you. Always be consistent, whether you count it as row 1 or whether you don't count it as row 1. I like to leave it as just like a border starting row, because it doesn't affect the overall look of your piece. Because see, I didn't do it here. It's right there. There's that cast on roll is right there, along with the first knit. Let's see, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40. This is going to be close. I got that much left and I need 10 more stitches. So let's see if I can get the other 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's going to be close. 7. This is the other way to do a long tail cast on. Go over your thumb, hold it, yarn over, and then flip your thumb over. I think that was 8. This is 9. And one more makes 10. Let me double check. I'm going to count to see. It's better to count it now. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24, 26, 28, 30, 32, 34, 36, 38, 40. We're getting there. 42, 44, 46, 50. Okay. Now it starts with 50, but by the time you finish with row 3, you're going to have 51 stitches, and I'll show you the reason why and how that comes about. That has caused a lot of confusion because you need 51 stitches after you get it started, and I tell you in the beginning to cast on only 50. And I'll clear up that confusion when I get to that. So basically we're going to just start knitting, because the first 2 rows, as it says here, rows 1 and 2, knit both rows across. Now I probably won't show you me knitting 2 rows across. That's 100 stitches of doing the same thing that we've been doing for years and years and years, and we all know how to do a knit stitch. But that is how it begins. It gives us our top border across the top of our work. It's the same. On the bottom of the jacket, you end with 2 rows of knit. When you end a cuff, same thing, you end it with 2 rows of knit. That gives you the same uniformity in looks, and when you cast off, it has a nice finished look. I'm about halfway done with row 1. Okay, I'm going to pause, and when I get to halfway through row 2, I'll bring it back online. I almost forgot. I kept going almost too far because I was going to bring you back in when I got halfway through round 2 or row 2, and I'm just about done with row 2. I thought I better go ahead and get back on track. Okay, so there's the first 2 rows. Since you're doing it on circular needles, after you get to the end, you turn your needles around, so that way your knitting is on your left-hand side if you're right-handed, and your empty needle is on your right. Now, if you're left-handed, it'd be just the reverse. You can do this in the American throw, or you can do continental. Both ways work great. Okay, I usually bring them back up a little bit on my needle. The reason for such a long needle is as you get through this jacket, you start doing the front and the back and the sleeves, it's a lot of stitches, so the 24-inch circular makes it work really, really well. Okay, row 3, if you're making a boy, you start with a knit 2, yarn over, knit 2. There's where stitch 51 comes in. Now, if you're doing a girl, you would do the pattern, first row of the pattern, until you get to the last 5 stitches, and then you would knit 2, yarn over, knit 2, and that would give you the 51. That yarn over is the one that gives you the spare stitch. That's also your buttonhole that you'll find in the middle of your neck. So we'll start with, since this is going to be for a boy, I'm going to knit 2, yarn over, knit 2. So we start with our knit 2. Yarn over is really simple. All you do is put the yarn around your needle, and that's it. That's a yarn over, and then you knit the next stitch and the next stitch. So now instead of 4 stitches, you have 5, and this one is kind of a wonky looking stitch, but it's supposed to be wonky looking because that's going to give you your buttonhole. Then it says to, in parentheses, slip 1 as if to purl, and then knit, and repeat this to the last 5 stitches. Okay. So we slip 1 as if to purl, knit 1, slip 1 as if to purl, knit 1. This is actually how the star stitch is made, and as you see, we're still doing a knit roll. We're just, in this case, slipping a stitch, but we're leaving our yarn in the back. And you do this all the way across to the last 5 stitches. Now, don't worry about whether you end with a knit or end with a slip, because as long as you have 5 at the end, you're in good shape. If you wind up with 6 at the end because you do a knit stitch and then you have 5 left, that works too. It's been quite a while since I made one of these, and I cannot remember if I wind up with a knit 1 and then do the slip and have 5 after that, or whether I end with a slip and then I have 5. But we'll find out when we get there. There's no need to count because it's the same thing over and over again. Slip 1 as if to purl, knit 1. Slip 1 as if to purl, knit 1. And do this all the way to the last 5 stitches, and we'll see where we left off at. See, we're almost at the 5 mark. Let me do one more, and now we're going to count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So see, I have 6, which means I'm going to slip 1, and then knit 1, because there's your 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And if you count, you now have 51 stitches. And when you look at it, the stitches always pair themselves up. So if you wanted to look to see if you did it correctly, just hold it up like this, and as long as they pair up, then you know you didn't slip a stitch or forget to purl a stitch. You know you're in good shape. All right, so now let's turn our work around. Move our stitches back up. Row 4, we skipped row 3 of the girl because we did row 3 of the boy. So row 4 of the boy is knit 5, then we're gonna, with the yarn in front, YFT stands for yarn in front, slip 1 as if to purl, then move the yarn to the back, that's yarn back, knit 1, and repeat to the last 4 stitches. Okay, so we don't question it, we just do it, and it'll come out right. So we start with 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so now it says we yarn in front. So you bring the yarn to the front of your work, slip one, put the yarn in the back. You see how the yarn wraps around that stitch? That's what causes the part of this star effect. And then you knit one. Now we do it again. So when you slip, you're going to slip the one that was slipped the last time. So if you kind of get lost and you don't remember where you're supposed to be, when you look at your stitches, if it's not knitted, then that's going to be a slip stitch on row 4. And then the knit stitch is the one that was knitted on the previous rows. Okay, so yarn in front, slip one as if to purl, yarn in back, knit one. Slip, yarn in front, slip one, yarn in back, knit one. Slip one, so you see the one we're going to slip was not knitted. Slip one, yarn in back, knit one. And you just repeat this all the way across. Just these 2 stitches over and over again. That's why the star stitch is so easy to do. Now I don't like to move them as individual. See you do yarn in front as an individual, slip, yarn in back as an individual, and knit one. To speed things up, I bring the yarn in front. While this is still here, I put the yarn in back, and when I take it off, now my yarn's around the stitch. It's just a way to be just a little bit quicker. Yarn in front, slip, put the yarn around your needles. When you pull it off, it's in the right position because see, it's in the back, and then you can knit one. It just doesn't take as much time as yarn in front, slip one, yarn in back, knit one. The only difference is I put the yarn in front, partially slip, put the yarn in back, slip it off, and then knit one. It just goes just a little bit quicker because you're kind of skipping one step in motion, but you're actually doing the whole thing in 3 steps instead of 4. Because normally you would do 1, 2, 3, 4. So what I do is 1, 2, 3. It's still the same stitch. It's just, I can do it a little bit quicker that way. It's just something I started doing years ago, and you can even do that at that point too. There, yarn over, and bring it to the front. So there I brought it to the back, and when I knit, yarn over. Before I take the needle off, I pull it through. I'll do it really slowly. So there's the first half, and I took the stitch off. Then when I go to knit, I bring the yarn through the knit stitch, bring the needle to the front, and then pull it through like that. It's just a way to do it and be a little quicker at it. See, I'm down to the last 4 stitches. So I don't want to do that yarn in front. When you get the last 4, well, see, you got your 5 there. So I'm going to knit that one. And then I'm going to knit the last 4. 1, 2, so you knit that yarn over as if it's a stitch. It's going to look kind of big like it's a mistake, but it's not. Okay, there. That is the star stitch. Just those 2 rows is what makes the star stitch. You can see it on the front, how the little stars start to form. Turn your work around. Now row 5, 6, and 7 is just plain knit. So I'll go ahead and get started. I'm just knitting every stitch just like I normally would, whether it is a slip stitch or a knitted stitch from the previous row. And this causes the bottom ridge underneath the star and the setup row to start separating the front from the back from the sleeves. As you see, I'm just knitting everything. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause the video and I'm going to finish knitting this row and row 6. Okay, I'm just about finished with row 6. I got 5 left, and then according to the directions I have to do row 7. What I'm thinking about doing is, as I get each section done, I'll go ahead and upload it as individual videos. That way you can knit along with me. And once the whole project gets completed, I will join them all together into one individual long video. But this way you can get started with me. Okay, there is the neck area. If you look at the neck, let me get the green one because it's a little easier to see. See, there's the neck. All right, now I got to do row 7, which is knit. And then the next row, we're going to split into the 5 sections, the 2 fronts, the 2 sleeves, and the back. And I'll go ahead and show how that's done, and I'll also show how you do the increase at that point. There's a multitude of ways that you can do an increase. Whichever increase you like best is the one you will use. I just do a simple knit in the front and back of the same loop, or you can do a make one. That works nice too. And if you have another way of doing it, you're more than welcome to do the other way. It's entirely up to you. It's your baby sweater. Whatever way you decide to do your increase will give your sweater its own unique look. I have to look and see if these last 2 sweaters I did with both front and back increase, or if I did a make one increase. I'll take a quick peek after I get row 7 completed. I'm a little more than halfway done with it. I do have a knitting machine. I just don't like using it. I like the hands-on. I can honestly say I made the baby sweater by hand by knitting every stitch individually, and it's very self-satisfying to be able to make something by hand and not whip it out on a machine in less than an hour. To me, that's just not hand knitting. But if you like to use the machine, you're more than welcome to. Okay, I'm just about got row 7 done. Now when you do row 8 and all the other even rows, even numbered rows like 8, 10, 12, they're all done with a purl unless otherwise specified. But as you can see, row 7, which is an even odd row, is on the front. So there is my neck. Let's see. Now this one's done with the standard knit in front and back of the same loop increase. I think this one was, yeah, this one was done the same way. It just gives you kind of an open look, but yet not totally open. And so it goes from here to 2 increases, and it goes around to here, 2 increases, and then it goes across the front. Okay, so let's go ahead and get that part set up. Okay, now we're going to follow the one foot where it says newborn. So let me put this here so it's easy to keep track of which roll I'm doing, because I have all 4 of them. Roll 8 for the newborn, the 3 to 6, 6 to 9, and 9 to 12. So you keep on track of which one you're doing. Since I'm doing the newborn size, I'm going to put that right there. Okay, now it says to start, I'm going to knit 5 because that's your border. You will knit 5 at the beginning and the end of every single roll. That gives you your button band or border, whatever you want to call it. 3, 4, 5. Now it says to purl 8, so I bring the yarn in front and I purl 8. Get those up on my needle. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now this is your front. Then it says PM, and PM means place marker. So I'm going to grab a marker and place it on my right hand needle, and then I purl 15. I use the little tiny markers because they take up less space and they don't stretch out the space between the 2 stitches, because I like them to look very uniform. Now if you don't have little small markers, you can always take a piece of the yarn in a contrasting color, make a little overhand knot, and use that as a marker, because that works great too. I always do that when I make socks because it definitely helps keep the stitches close together, because yarn is smaller than a lot of place markers. Okay, let's count, see how many I got. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 13, almost there. 14, 15. Now we place another marker, then purl 5. Okay. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we place another marker. Now we purl 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now something happened with mine. 6, 8. Oh, I see what I did. I forgot to do the purl 5. But that's okay, I can always move my markers. Well, no, I think I'll take it back. Okay, I went ahead and went back. I took them all out. And so now I have the knit 5, purl 8, knit 5. Right, 1, 2, 3, 4, oh, that's 6. I gotta take one more off. Then it says after you purl the 5, place a marker. And then we purl 15. 1, 2. It's really easy to, if you make a mistake and don't count them all, you have too many stitches at the end. Then when you count, you'll find out where you made a mistake, and you can always knit back to where you should be, because it's a real simple process, which is great. 2, 4, 6, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. I gotta do 5 more. 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Okay, now I place a marker and then purl 5. Okay, then we place our last marker, purl 8, and then we should have 5 left to do our 5-stitch garter border or button band. Let's see, how many have I done? 2, 4, 6, 7, 8. Yep, I got 5 left, so now I'm on the correct track. Okay. That is very important. You want to make sure you get that stitch count correct, because if you don't get this correct, your whole piece will start going little cattywampus. Okay, now we're going to start the yoke, row 1 of the yoke. So knit to the first stitch before your first marker, and then we're going to do an increase. So we're going to knit, we're only going to do 2 more rows, and then I'm going to post the video so I can get started on the next step, and then you can actually get started. You can use any baby yarn. You can use, like I said, the Dream Baby DK. You can use Red Heart, Caron, Canadiana, Knitting Fever, any yarn you want, as long as it's a DK or baby weight. Taking a size 6 needle, and you get 5.5 stitches to 1 inch, which is 22 stitches to 4 inches. As long as you can get roughly that gauge, you're in good shape. Okay, so we're going to knit back to the 1 stitch before the first marker. Almost there. Trying to stay in line of the camera. Let me move this out of the way, so because this way you've got a contrast brown. Okay, to 1 stitch before the marker. Now this is where we do our increase. So you put your needle in the front of your stitch, yarn over and knit it, but don't take it off. I usually pull it like this and then go in the back of that same stitch. See? Yarn over and then finish. And that turns one stitch into two, and you got that little horizontal bar across as if it looks like a pearl. And if you've done that, you're correct. And then it says the SM, which is slip marker. So that's right there, increase. Slip marker, after a while you'll see it say SM. Then you increase in the first stitch after the marker and repeat it three times, and then knit to the end. Okay, so let's do an increase again. So in the front of your stitch, yarn over, pull it through. Then in the back of your stitch, yarn over, pull it through. Now you've turned 2 stitches into 4. Then you knit, you repeat the directions. You knit to 1 stitch before the marker, and you do your increase, knit in the front and the back of the same stitch, slip your marker, knit in the front and the back of the same stitch. Now you knit till you get to the next marker. So this one is your 15 stitches, because this is your back. I'll show how each one is divided after I finish this row in a purl back, because the next row is you purl back, but you slip the marker as you go, but you don't do any more increases. The only increases you do are on the front. You do not do increases on the back, or the back row, or the even row, whichever way you want to call it. See how I just repeated the same thing? And you knit to 1 stitch before the marker again. Knit in the front and the back of the same loop. Slip your marker, knit in the front and the back of the same loop, and then it says knit to the end, no counting required. I'm almost done. Okay, so that will be the end of row 1 of the yoke. I'm going to put it to the middle of these needles so you can see what I did. There. This is our front. These stitches, as they get wider and wider, will become our sleeve. These here in the middle will be your back. This is your other sleeve, and this is your other front. Now, row 2, knit 5. Like I said at the beginning, you always knit 5, and at the end you always knit 5. But on row 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, and so on, you purl to the last 5 stitches, slipping the markers as you go. So you don't want to take the markers off, because you're going to need those markers all the while you are doing the increases on the yoke, because the yoke has several rows, and each size has a different amount of rows. So we're going to knit 5. And now we're going to purl to the last 5 stitches. So we're going to, there's the first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now this you'll have 8, 6, 7, 8, and then the increase, which makes 9. And then you slip your marker and you knit the next 2. Just treat them all like regular stitches, because they all are just regular stitches. It just so happens one of them looks a little different on either side of your marker. But as you see, I'm just purling every single one. I know my fingers get in the way. Unfortunately, this was the way I was taught to knit. Everybody knits the way they're taught, and each family has their own techniques. And you just pass those techniques down from generation to generation. Unfortunately, I did not have a teacher for knitting. I had a great-grandmother that taught me to crochet, but my knitting was self-taught. So the way I do it is the way it worked best for me back when I was 17 years old. Now I'm giving away my age. But yeah, I've been knitting for almost 50 years and a little more than 50 years in crocheting. So that kind of gives you a hint of how old I am. Whoops, I missed. Okay, and I'll put this back on the needle because I didn't knit it. So put it back on the left needle, then I can knit it correctly. I'm almost done with row 2 of the yoke. Slip the stitch marker, and now we purl to the last 5 stitches because the last 5 is the garter. One, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I got to purl this one and knit these last 5. Okay, so now we got that part done. Okay, at this point, you have a buttonhole. Okay, here it says repeat rows 1 and 2 for 8 ridges. Well, at this point from the buttonhole, so we have a buttonhole, it's over here. So how many ridges do I have so far? I got 1 ridge here, oops, I'm sorry, 1 ridge here, 1 ridge there, 1 ridge there, and here's ridge number 4. So I'm going to repeat rows 1 and 2 until I have 8 ridges, which means I gotta knit another 8 rows, increasing when I get to the markers. So I'll go ahead and get the first 2 markers done. And then you just keep repeating it over and over again. It's just too monotonous for you to sit and watch me just do this over and over again because it's the same thing. So first we're going to knit to the marker. This is what's called a stockinette stitch because you knit on the odd rolls 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, and you purl on the even rolls 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, and that gives you this really nice smooth look on the front and the bumpies on the back. Okay, now we're going to do the increase. You knit in the front and the back of the same stitch, slip your marker, knit in the front and back, and then you can continue knitting. I'll get up to the next marker. Front and back, slip the marker, knit in the front and the back, and continue on. So you just keep repeating this until you've got your 8 ridges. Like I said, you don't count the first 2 ridges because the first 2 ridges are before the buttonhole. You're only going to count the buttonholes after the ridges, and right now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, so I definitely have to add 4 more. Once I add 4 more, then I'll do the next buttonhole for the little boy, which is knit 2, yarn over, knit 2 together, because we don't want the yarn over to make a new stitch because then it'll give us an extra stitch, and we don't want to do that. So always remember, when you do, after you do a yarn over from this time forward, you want to knit 2 together. Even on the girls, and girls is in reverse. At the last 4 stitches, you knit 2 together and then do the yarn over, and that gives you the reduction of 1 stitch because the yarn over gives you a stitch, and that keeps you continuously with the right amount of stitches. And by the time you get all 8 ridges done, you should have a total of 91 stitches on your needle. If you count and you have 91, then you know you have done your 8 ridges before you start your buttonhole. Well, thank you for watching. I will continue on with this pattern, and as I get to each section, I'll go ahead and post it, so that way you can do a knit along as I'm doing it too, and I hope you enjoy it.